Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Leigh Fuge, and in this video today we're going to be checking out this new wah from Cry Baby. This is the custom badass Dual-Inductor edition wah. So the custom badass Dual-Inductor edition wah is another spin on the classic Cry Baby, but this has two different classic Cry Baby inductors in there, which you can switch back and forth between. The two inductors we've got inside here are the classic Red Fasel and the HaloTM inductors. So both have very different distinctive wah characteristics. So this is a very tweakable wah, so if you want some more vintage style wah sounds, or something a bit tighter and more modern, you can actually flip between two different sounds in this one pedal. So on one side you've got the Red Fasel inductor. That is a little bit more modern, tighter sounding in those mids and highs. The Red Fasel was first brought in around about the early 2000s in the GCB 95 model. On the other side you've got the Halo inductor. This is more of that classic sort of 60s and 70s Vox and early Cry Baby tones. So it's not as tight or precise, it's a little bit looser and a little bit throatier. So the Dual-Inductor edition is a lighter wah pedal than a typical Cry Baby. This is a good thing for a traveling musician because obviously if you're traveling with a pedal board, you want to keep that weight down as much as you can. So Dunlop have somehow managed to get the weight on the casing down. I'm guessing it's like a slightly thinner grade of metal. It still feels pretty durable, but it's definitely more lightweight, which is great. It's got this really cool exposed silver sort of footplate. It looks a little bit more industrial than the sort of typical all black Cry Babies. All the tweakability lies in these little knobs on the side. So we've got one for each inductor. These knobs here allow you to dial in the sort of brightness of the forward point of the pedal. So when they're all the way up, you get the maximum amount of treble when the footplate is all the way forward, and then you can dial those back if you want to roll off that top end a little bit. When you go all the way down with them, you get into some darker territories. So there's one for each of the inductors. The one with the blue light is the Halo, and the one with the red light is the Fasel. Right here we've got the little switch that you can kick to switch between the two of them. And on the bottom we've got two more LEDs, one of which to tell you which of the inductors is active. So if you can't see the side of the pedal, you can see the LED on the bottom, which is pretty cool. And there's also a white LED on the bottom that tells you if the pedal is on. So this is super useful for gigs because, you know, if anyone has used a wah pedal before, you may have felt the pain of using it and walking away without turning it off. So having that little LED just to tell you that the pedal is still on is going to be really useful for gigging musicians. With both inductors in this pedal and the ability to fine-tune the sort of treble range of it, it makes this very versatile wah. So you can go from that kind of throaty 60s Hendrix thing right up to some more sort of cutting modern wah tones. This is going to be a very versatile addition to anyone's wah collection. And the cool thing is, this is super limited edition. So if you want one of these, you're going to have to act very fast because there are only 777 of them in the world, and I'm going to assume that once they're gone, they're probably going to be gone for good. I don't know if Dunlop will make any more of these, so if you want one, get on this as soon as possible. So I'm going to plug this in now, and we're going to take a listen to how this thing sounds. For this video, I'm going to be using my Jackson Adrian Smith SDX guitar. This is obviously a Strat style guitar with 2 singles and a humbucker. I've got the wah going straight into my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200, which is running over the Red Box DI with a cabinet sim straight into my DAW. So no mics in the room today, just direct into the Black Spirit 200, straight into the DAW. So we're going to start by looking at both the inductors on a clean tone. So start with the Red Fasel mode. This is the slightly more modern, tighter sounding wah. You'll notice that I've got the frequency switch set straight up. So as we play, I'll move this forward and back so you can hear the range of the pedal. So let's go all the way forward with that frequency switch, so you will hear a brighter response to the top end of the wah now. And now I'll roll that switch all the way back, and what you will then hear is a much darker wah sound. So it's definitely a tight wah. It's got quite a nice quack to it and quite a nice mid-range. It's very tight, like I said. It's great for sort of modern funk style playing. So if you have that quite far forward, maybe not all the way forward, but maybe like 3/4 of the way up with a single coil pickup, that would be great for some funk style wah. So now I'm going to switch over to the Halo inductor. So this is shown by the blue LED you see here. This has also lit up a blue LED on the back of the unit as well. So this is the more vintage style inductor. Think of those sort of 60s and 70s Hendrixy sort of crybaby tones like the classic Crybabies and the early Vox wahs. So now let's take the tone control all the way up on the Halo mode. So this is going to give us a brighter vintage style wah tone. And now all the way down so you can see how dark this inductor goes. So that inductor is great for those 60s and 70s real throaty wah sounds. So now I've got a crunch tone selected on the Black Spirit 200, which sounds like this. So we're going to test out the wah now on both inductors with a little bit of crunch. So we'll start off with the Halo because that's the one I've already got selected. So let's push this all the way forward into the bright setting. And then all the way back to see how dark it gets with a little bit of crunch. So again, very throaty, very kind of vintage vibed, especially when you have the tone rolls all the way down there. It's quite moody sounding, really cool for some sort of down-tempo blues stuff. So now I'm going to go over to the Red Fasel. So we're starting off straight in the midnight position. Then we'll brighten that one up by going all the way forward with the tone switch. And then all the way back so you can hear how dark it gets. And now we'll take a look with both inductors on a higher gain rock sound. So I've just dialed a little bit more gain, gone up to the next channel on the Black Spirit 200, and it sounds like this. So I've dialed in a little bit more of like an 80s sort of heavy metal tone there. So we'll start actually with the Red Fasel side because that's already selected. I'll just reset these both to midnight. So straight away, that's a really cool kind of 80s rock wah tone there. I really like the sort of throatiness, even though we're on the Red Fasel here, which is a little bit tighter and sort of more present. It does still have a throaty quality. Let's brighten this one up. So the first thing I noticed there is that I think these brighter settings work a little bit better with higher gain. It tends to cut through that little bit easier. On the clean settings, I don't think these sort of super bright wah modes work that well, but I can imagine that working really good as a stage wah, because in this setting with a bit more gain, that would really cut through the mix. So let's just take this one all the way down to the darkest side now. And now I'm going to jump over to the Halo side. So we're back at midnight here for the Halo inductor. Now let's take that one all the way forward on the brightness. And finally on the higher gain mode, let's take the Halo inductor and take the tone all the way down for a darker high gain wah sound. There you go guys, there is the Cry Baby Custom Badass Dual Inductor Edition wah. That's a mouthful, but this thing has a ton of great wah tones in there. It's perfect for anyone who's looking for a super versatile wah that goes from, you know, that vintage throaty thing right up to some tighter, brighter, modern wah tones. It's really a great pedal. It sounds great. It's built like a tank, like all Cry Babies are, but with this slightly reduced weight. So for a traveling musician, it's fantastic. I really love this sort of squishiness and the sort of looseness of the Halo inductor, but I also like the way that the Fasel inductor cuts through on the brighter settings with more gain. I think, like I said, this would definitely be a really cool wah for someone who needs a couple of different wah textures throughout a gig. Very, very useful, very versatile, and it's quite nice that you can tweak that high end because, again, you know what it's like, you turn a wah on and sometimes the treble can be a bit too much. So sometimes it's nice to just rein that in a little bit. And I really love that Cry Baby have decided to add those LEDs on the back so you can see when the pedal's on stage. That makes it very, very useful for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of the Cry Baby Custom Badass Dual Inductor Edition wah pedal. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Like I said earlier in the video, if you want one of these things, you better act fast because there are only 777 of them in the world. So go check those out right now because it's a great wah pedal. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.